Hi there, this is Cogarnach, and this is going to be a pretty different video to the ones I normally do, obviously, because I've decided to make an attempt at a soft spoken video, which is something I've never done before. Mainly because I always imagined I wouldn't be very good at it, and always thought maybe female voices were much better suited to soft speaking. But in recent weeks I've been certainly gravitating towards soft speaking videos by other people. So decided to just give it a whirl, give it a go, and throw it up on YouTube and see what happens. So apologies if it's something you weren't expecting or something you don't like. Just ignore it and go back to whispering in the future. I'm obviously back to using a camera as well. I just have it trained on the TV. I'm also recording it, the audio separately too, on the iPod, so I'll have the visuals on the camera with the inbuilt sound, but I also have a separate sound with the iPod too. So it'll give me an option about what to use on YouTube. I'm not too sure what I'm going to use yet, so we'll see what happens. On the off chance that I just literally upload the audio only without the visuals, then any future reference for the rest of this video that I might make to what's on the TV, sorry about that. You won't be able to see it, obviously. But if I do, then what you're watching is an old movie that's on late here. It's a movie called Heaven's Gate, a cult classic, an excellent movie. I've seen it a good few times. I haven't seen it in a long time, actually. It's an old western made by the guy who directed The Deer Hunter, which is a famous American film, and this was his next film after that. There's Christopher Walken, and there's also the great Chris Christopherson in this film too. But this film is most famously or infamously regarded as the film that broke a studio. United Artists, one of the later Hollywood studios, invested so much money into this film, and it just went on and on for over a year, I think, filming, and probably an equal amount of time during editing, and the costs skyrocketed, literally made the studio bust, because it was an absolute failure in the cinemas. But it's enjoyed a very successful post-cinematic release life, and it's now regarded as a really, really excellent film. But sadly, not enough for the studio to make its money back. Anyway, I promised myself I wouldn't go all film nerdy again in the near future after the last attempt I did at talking about film, so I'm going to leave it there. It's late here. I was in town earlier. I went in to meet an old friend who I hadn't seen in about a month. cuisine. She brought me to this Indian restaurant that I'd never been before. It was a nice find. I like finding new restaurants that are good, obviously, that I previously hadn't known about. So it's now my new second favourite Indian restaurant in town. It's a really good meal. I had something I hadn't ever tried before. Something called jeera. A chicken jeera. Chicken curry, essentially, but with lots of garlic, onion and spices. So I enjoyed that, and went for a few beers afterwards, and now I'm back home, not having beers, actually having a very nice cup of tea. If you're watching this on visual, if I've actually uploaded the visuals onto YouTube, there's my cup, just to prove that I'm not on the beer for once. Yeah, it was nice to catch up with the old friend. We used to live together years ago in a big student house, and we've kept in touch ever since. She's been living here for years, but she's not from Ireland, she's from mainland Europe. And it's funny, she's, in some ways as Irish as the rest of us, and in other ways very, very foreign. She loves living here, and generally when we do get together after a few hours, the same type of conversations always crop back up, and tonight we were joking and talking about Irish society, Irish isms, Irish ways of doing things, and she always used to say, and still does, that no matter how long she lives here, she'll never understand certain things about the way the Irish are. It was funny. I teach her a few Irish words every now and again, and I was actually talking to her about something in particular tonight that I said, God, that's a little bit interesting and funny. I must remember to say it to in a YouTube video at some stage. It's kind of to do with a weird way of explaining to foreigners something deeply profound and integral to the Irish character. And I'll try and share with you now. Irish as a language is one of the oldest vernacular languages in Europe. It's been around for a long time. And here's something you can amaze your Irish friends with. It's a little known fact, even within this country. But if you've ever wanted to know and understand everything about Ireland, be it its culture, its history, character, personality of people from there, this is all you need to know. In the Irish language, that no one speaks anymore, but for thousands of years, up until quite recently, there has never been a definitive word for either yes or no. That sounds a bit mad, but I'll try and explain. If you were to literally translate things from Irish, you get lots of affirmatives and lots of negatives. If you were to say in Irish something like, are you going to the shop? Someone would answer, I am going to the shop, or I am not going to the shop. If somebody says, did you get drunk last night? The answer would be, I did, or or I didn't. That's what the literal meaning means. But there is no word, no single definitive word for yes or no. And you gotta love a culture and a society that has got by without a definitive yes or no. It really does explain an awful lot about us. Everything is a weird shade of grey. You know, there's no black and white. There's no right or wrong. There's no yes or no. It's just this weird plethora of possibilities. It's probably why you can never get a straight answer out of an Irish person. But that's the reason why, and I think it's been stamped onto our national character in some ways over those centuries. You tell an Irish person this now and they'll probably turn around and say, that's wrong. Of course we have words for yes and no. And we do, but they've only literally just been made up in the last century. We use a word for yes that's called tá. And we have a word for no that's called níl. Tá and níl, yes and no. But that's what they generally are meant to represent. A single definitive yes or no, but they're just made up. I mean, they're not that old. And it really is only an attempt to replicate those words because of the modern need to say yes or no. But really, until they came along, there wasn't one. I suppose it's kind of like if you've ever heard in books or on the internet or pub quizzes maybe, there's always there's a great urban myth, which I think may be true, but it goes along the lines of, you know, the Eskimos in North America and Alaska and Canada. The Eskimo culture has, you know, dozens and dozens of words, different words for snow. You know, it's something like 26, 27, 28 different words for snow to describe it. You know, different types of snow, different textures, all of that sort of thing. And obviously, a culture from a particular area and dealing with it throughout all those centuries would of course develop lots of different words for something that, you know, was so integral to their life, to their way of living. And in a way, that's something, when you sort of revert that back to the Irish situation, you know, we obviously got by for centuries without needing a word for yes or no. So that's my profound thought for today. Amaze your friends or your enemies. Educate an Irish person if you meet them. From now on, you'll be able to say with authority, there is no yes or no in Ireland. I've suddenly realised that there's an awful scene happening on the TV right now. I forgot about this bit in the film. I mightn't show it actually on the YouTube video. So yeah, obviously I haven't planned anything in terms of what I was going to say in this video. It's another random waffle video, late night, with just random images from the TV. I was actually trying to make this half an hour ago, and I had to stop it a few times because there was an awful lot of noise from outside. I live in a pretty quiet area generally, even though it's just off a busy road, but at the weekends it kind of gets noisy. Surrounded by woods, and one particular place not far from my own place is a small little clearing in one of these woods, and it's obviously the most popular teenage hangout joint for Fridays and Saturday nights. The local teenagers like to hang out there, get some alcohol and drink and shout and be merry and sing at the tops of their voices for a couple of hours, and then they all go home. Because they're too young to go into town or to get into any pubs or clubs, things like that. It's actually funny to see them arriving from about 8 or 9 o'clock onwards of an evening. Lots of boys with gel in their hair. They're just teenagers, 16, 17 as I said, and then all the girls arrive en masse. They must plan it or something. But the girls are wearing the best of clothes, and they're literally done up like pop stars. It's the type of stuff you would actually wear into a club, into a really fashionable club, and they're completely dressed to impress these guys that they're meeting in a dark wood, very teenagery. But at the end of the day, they're dressing up in heels and short dresses and all this sort of stuff to impress a couple of guys while they drink it, from cans in a wood. It's hilarious, really, to watch. They can get very noisy, though, really noisy, especially after they've, finished drinking whatever they have. Lots of songs being sung and screaming and shouting and general teenagery stuff. And I'm getting to that age in life, I think, that you're starting to get a bit pissed off when someone's disturbing you. They were disturbing my YouTube attempt earlier, so thankfully they seem to have moved off now. But I'm probably coming up to about 20 minutes now, so I should probably think about wrapping this up. So keeping it short and sweet. Do let me know if, whatever you think about this whole soft-speaking thing. I can't imagine it's that relaxing. But if it is, maybe I'll make some more in the future. So, I hope you're having a good start to the weekend, whatever you get up to, wherever you are. And I hope the rest of the weekend is good for you. Before I go, just want to say a big shout out to Funky Bumble, who is fast turning into, the main contributor and commenter on my YouTube page. Fair play to you, Funky. You make me laugh, you make me smile. And cheers for all your feedback. It's great to have. So this is a special shout out for you. Cheers for everything. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Have a good one. Be safe. And I'll talk to you soon.